All right. Hi. Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving me some time to talk. I'm actually bridging it a bit because I am from the Agency for Science, Technology and Research, which means that we cover both the research side, more the research side than actually the regulatory stuff. So those of you who know Singapore well, we actually have the Singapore Food Agency that does that. But at A-Star, we do research in both areas in terms of the regulatory parts as well as the innovation. So by that, it's kind of in between. Hopefully, it won't be that boring. uh, I'm also trying to avoid too much of the reg stuff, but let me just start, all right? So the what we call the cultivated meat here or cellular agriculture program was born out of our goal of self-sustainability within Singapore, and it was born out of a 30 by 30 food security goal, right? And this means that we want to have 30% of our food by 2030 produced locally. And so in that whole picture, you can see that actually there are three pieces: sustainable food production, advanced food production, and then the safety side, right? So within that, we have the cell-based meat or cultivated meat, and then of course the food safety piece that will support the cell-based research. So what we hope to do in our cellular agriculture or cultivated meat piece is that we hope to replace or to be able to produce meat in Singapore. We do not have much space for agriculture. As you know, we are a small island. And so we do see a strategic need for this piece of work. And from here, you can see that we already have several companies, a number of which are actually spin-offs from our agency, the researchers from our agency. And these are just some of them that have started up and are either producing some, at least at the lab scale, some products and are looking to go to market. Of course, there are some that are already in the market. All right, and I'll share a little bit about that later. Okay, so what we aim to do was that in 2 years ago, we started a program, a grant program, to be able to have a one-stop solution for our cultivated meat program. And so we actually put up a program that we work with universities such as the National University of Singapore and the Singapore Institute of Technology in these five broad areas, right? Firstly, I think we look at the reactor processes. These are the reactors that David mentioned, where we put the cells in and stir them and grow them in these reactors. All right. The other one we know is in media, and I'd like to add that actually what the panel has been saying is very true. And media is a big component, comprising maybe about 80 to 90% of the cost. So it's the focus of a lot of research, yeah, even in Singapore. All right. Then we look at cost-effective materials in terms of support materials, structural stuff that David mentioned. We have plant-derived factors. We have plant-derived materials. We also work on fungi, and beyond that, we look at organoleptic properties, and we look at modeling. Actually, we look at modeling in the whole scheme of things, and we do apply AI and machine learning to simulate and to study the growth of these cells and the factors and the expression. And that, as David rightfully said, will give us a lot of insight into what's going to happen in the cell as we express them, and to be able to allow us to replicate taste and flavors. All right. And here we have a big component of media, right? We do media component screening. We also look at growth factor engineering. So growth factor being one of the major costs, we are looking at several ways of reducing costs, either from expression in other organisms, or getting cheaper forms or substitutes, right? Developing serum-free media, characterizing and curating the components. And then, like I said, we have been working on a model-driven media design for a while. And this is also born from the fact that at our institute, the Bioprocessing Technology Institute, we work mainly with the farmers, and we already have some models that we work with farmers on. And so we are trying to use some of these models that hopefully can help us get some answers and to be able to optimize the media for cultivated. Right? On the source end, we are also looking at isolating and differentiating cells. So we have a program that goes out to look for cells and see whether we can actually grow them. That's really tough, right? And if we can, then we will generate cell banks, right, and hope to be a source for companies who are looking to produce cultivated meat eventually. Right, and this one is a pre-master cell bank, which is going to be an extension from the isolation work. All right, but before that, we will also do identification, safety test, scalability, traceability, as well as looking at the quality of the cell line. Right. So what we do is that we want to enable these companies to grow. So in December 2020, Singapore approved the first lab-grown meat production. And so we do have cultivated meat served in Singapore, although the queue is very long and production capacity is very small. So it's really, at the moment, just for people to try it out, right? But we do have 2 or 3 companies that are building plants within Singapore right now, and they are working with the SMA for regulatory approvals as they build their plants. And we also do have what we call a contract manufacturer in Singapore already, helping to produce up to about 250 liters at that scale. Right, so now I'll go in a little bit into the regulation, but I think the approach in Singapore it's quite similar to what's happening in the US. But what we all agree on is that the science behind cultivated meat is still quite early. So the Singapore Food Agency also keeps an open mind, right? So actually we'll work with the companies to actually characterize and approve each of their products in accordance to what information they can derive scientifically through a process, right? So this is the pathway for assessment and approval, and these are all readily available on the Singapore Food Authority website. All right, so broadly, it's categorized into, I think, a pre-market, pre-safety assessment, and then they will do a case-by-case basis for analysis. And then beyond that, of course, when the plant is ready or manufacturing is going to be done, the usual HACCP, GMPs, GLPs, and also I think good culture, cell culture techniques will also be required in this case. And in support of the toxicological analysis and some of the safety analysis, a safety hub, a food safety hub called the Future Ready Food Safety Hub was created. Right, it's a joint piece between A*STAR, NUS, NTU, and SIT, and this hopes to work. Not hope, but it's actually working together with the Singapore Food Agency to serve the industry. They help in terms of looking at scientific gaps. They also help where there are regulatory issues or approval issues that are grey, all right? And they act as a neutral platform for these 3 parties to work together. All right, and secondary to that, or rather not secondary, but as another component, they also provide talent development capabilities in terms of training and providing research support as well. So I think in closing, these are some of the companies that are already running in Singapore. We have Multiply, Impact Fact, which is Fish Fact. All right. Then Odra and Avant, which is fish meat. Okay. In support of that, we actually work with a few of the big companies, especially in the equipment and media side. This is Corning. We also signed a joint project with Thermo Fisher as well in terms of helping to support this capability. All right, so I hope this gives you a quick overview of what's happening in Singapore, and I'm happy to take any questions.